Hello, my name is Ryan Peterson, and I've been studying birds for over 5 years. Did you know that over 3 million Americans suffer from some type of speech disorder, such as stuttering? One of the few animal models that we can use to study language disorders and language in general is birdsong. And because of this, birdsong offers an ideal model to study human language, in part because it is a learned behavior as opposed to just simply an innate behavior. And vocal learning requires two parts. One, it requires the capacity to produce the sound. You can't learn to sing if you can't sing. And second, the vocal learning requires the ability to perceive the sound. You can't learn to sing something if you can't hear it. And so only certain species have this ability. And these are birds of the order Passeriformes in the Oscine songbirds. So the Passeriformes are a large order, and within the order are the Oscine songbirds, which are the singers. And this is because only these birds have the structural requirements, the syrinx, which is analogous to the human larynx, and the neurological ability to learn to sing. Now, the majority of research on birdsong is focused only on a handful of species. And these include the zebra finch, which is the vast majority of the studies. And a distant second is the white-crowned sparrow, and lastly there's the canary. And then there's a handful of studies on a multitude of different species. But these are the three big species that have been studied. And the reason why white-crowned sparrow and zebra finch have been studied so heavily is because they grow very quickly and learn their song very quickly, making a nice experimental model. Learning the song within 90 days of hatching. That's very nice. You can study many birds that way. But it's important to note that there's a large spectrum of vocal learning, from at one end the zebra finch, white-crowned sparrow, white-crowned sparrow on one side, learning very quickly and only learning one song of life, to, on the other end, say the northern mockingbird or like a parrot that can learn many songs throughout their life. And so vocal learning is a distinct process. There's a period after a bird is born where there's a period of sensory learning, where the bird is just listening to its environment, listening for a song, listening for anything. And during this period, the bird learns the song and memorizes the song. And at some point, this period ends. And this is what we call the critical period. If a bird doesn't learn anything within this period, it can't learn a new song. After this period ends, then after the bird has learned the song, it begins to learn to sing. And it forms what we first call a subsong, which is something it sings, but then it tries to learn, eventually matches the subsong to the learned song that it heard from, say, an adult tutor. And eventually, with time, that formal song, very close to the tutor, crystallizes, and that's what they would sing throughout their entire life, if we're talking about a zebra finch or a white-crowned sparrow. So the development of song has both a genetic component, where there's an innate song template for each species, and a learned component. And this learned component, like I alluded to before, is dependent on both auditory feedback and on the tutor's stimulation. So we know that that bird song is learned, because if no tutor is present, then a bird will still sing. So there is some genetic component to the bird singing, and it will produce a song. A zebrafinch will produce a song, zebrafinch-like, but it will be a bad song. If you deafen the bird so that it can't hear, so that it can receive any auditory feedback, it will still sing, but it will produce a very bad song, even worse than if there is no tutor present. And if you expose the juvenile bird to a different species, such as if you expose a white-crowned sparrow to a marsh sparrow, which have slightly different songs, the white-crowned sparrow, juvenile white-crowned sparrow, will learn a marsh sparrow's song. So there's an innate instinct to learn the song, similar to language, how there's an innate instinct to learn language, but also it's heavily dependent on the learning component in the environment. And so why on earth would a bird want to sing? Well, there's several reasons. One, if you're a male, you want to establish your territory so that other males know where it is, so that you don't constantly get hawked and attacked. So males will establish a territory, such as in a tree, and you use their song as a form of territory defense. Males will also use their song to attract females, and that's probably the biggest hallmark of bird song. Males will sing to attract a female, and females are receptive to and prefer different types of songs, or particular types of songs depending on the species. And lastly, birds sing to socialize. If a male hears another male singing, it may begin to sing to, again, establish territory boundaries. So the bird song learning is very similar to human language learning, although there are shared differences. There's a beginning period where the infant or the bird is just listening, and after some time, the subsong or babbling begins, and after which a more formative language in humans begins to crystallize or develop, similar to a formalized song crystallizes and develops in birds. Now, it is important to note that the repertoire of syllables in syntax of human language is much more diverse than what birds learn. Nevertheless, the basic structure at which the language and birdsong are learned is very similar. Now, we also know that birdsong and language are very similar because of one gene called the FOXP2 gene. Now, this is a gene that was observed in a major deficiency in a particular family. One family had this entire gene deficient, and they all had major vocal problems. They all had verbal dyspraxia, and you don't need to be a linguist to know that verbal dyspraxia, that doesn't sound good. It's major problems pronouncing and understanding language. And so this is also important for bird songs, or for birds when they're learning their song. Birds that sing when the gene has been knocked down, they show substantial impairments in learning their song and sing nothing close to what the tutored song would sing. So, from this, hope you gathered a few facts. One, the songs that birds sing vary widely between species. Birdsong has an innate component like language, in that songbirds have an innate desire to sing, and will sing even without the presence of feedback. And lastly, birdsong is also a learned component. It is dependent on both hearing a tutor and has a critical period, often early in life. And it's similar to language, depending on who individuals hear in the environment and early exposure in life. And I'd like to thank you for listening. My name is Ryan Peters.